Today we're tackling a sensitive but important topic. Why are so many adult children estranged from their parents? Hi, I'm Dr. Paul Jenkins. I've been a professional psychologist now for 30 years, and I've seen it a lot. In this video, I'll share a key mindset shift that can help you to rebuild connection even if things feel broken right now. I think part of the solution is understanding what it is that we're dealing with and why it happens. Let's go there first. Adult children often distance themselves, not because they don't love you or appreciate what you've done for them all of these years, but because of unresolved emotional wounds, either real or perceived, that they are experiencing in their own mind, in their own heart. It's about their process of understanding their life and healing from whatever it is that has them troubled. Childhood is rough. Think about your own. And even though as a good parent you provided everything that you could to take care of your kids and do the best job that you knew how to do with what you had, they're still going to experience some trauma. Now, I throw that word out there, and some people put trauma up on a pedestal and almost worship it as the source of all of their discontent. I'm just talking about being part of the human family. When you show up on earth, you're going to experience trauma. I like the way Tim Hansel put this in his book, You Gotta Keep Dancing. He said, pain is inevitable. Misery is optional. And that has to do with what our brain does with the trauma. Sometimes parents take this really personally because their kids say that they had a traumatic childhood. Well, it's probably true. They did experience trauma. Even birth is trauma. How we experience discipline can be trauma. Falling and scraping our knee is trauma. So I think every child has a traumatic childhood. It's not about who's responsible for this, even though sometimes kids, as they reach adulthood, think back on their childhood and tend to blame their parents for it. It would be a mistake to over-personalize this as a parent. Why? Because then you become defensive and you might start to argue with your adult children about what their experience was. It is what it is. Whatever they experienced is real to them. It doesn't necessarily reflect what you did. You know, as a professional psychologist, I've reflected on this also personally. Because as I talk to my siblings, and we're all in our 50s now, we all experienced a different childhood. And we grew up in exactly the same home with exactly the same parents. I share this with you because our perception of our parents differs from person to person. And now that my children are grown and I hear reports back from them about what they experienced as a child, sometimes it doesn't match my memory of that. Let me talk about that word for a moment too. I remember back in graduate school, one of the first academic papers that I did had to do with false memory syndrome. Now, that might sound like a goofy topic to you, but it's a real thing. We create memories based on whatever information we have or don't have. And even the word remember very literally means to put pieces together again. Our memories are very fragmented. We'll have an image come to mind. Well, that's a piece. A member is a piece or a part. To remember something means taking all of the pieces and then assembling them now. And we don't do it very accurately. Some of the research that I did back in those days was very conclusive about how inaccurate memories can be. So let's not get too hung up on what really happened or setting the record straight. Your children's experience of their childhood, their upbringing, their teenage years, their relationship with you is being put together now with little bits and pieces that they still have. I think I'm sharing this with you because I would caution you against becoming too defensive or becoming argumentative or corrective about what your children are reporting. It's simply their experience. In the parent coaching programs that I provide, we talk about development a lot, and there is a process of development where children start out as being very dependent, very needy. You think of a little baby, for example, they can't do anything for themselves. They depend on you as a parent to provide everything. And then, as they begin to grow and mature, they gradually take more and more control as they become more and more mature. Eventually, our job as a parent is to work our way out of a job. We're hoping that our kids will reach a level of independence and autonomy that they can run their own life and they don't need us to be micromanaging and controlling everything. But that doesn't happen all at once. It happens gradually over a period of years and even decades. If parents continue to operate from a position of control and management, it creates resentment and resistance in our kids who are growing and developing their own sense of autonomy. And it can feel smothering. Now, you don't intend to smother your kids. And most of the parents that I've consulted with about this, they've maybe heard that from the kids. Oh, you're so smothering, you're so controlling, or whatever. Well, that's not the parent's intent. But without that transition from management into consultation, where you don't control anything, you're simply available as a trusted resource. If we don't make that shift, it creates a feeling of being smothered. I think at this point it's probably appropriate also to acknowledge some cultural, traditional shifts. We live in a different world than we grew up in, right? You can think of some really key, important differences. And one of those is that we now live in an information age. Information is readily, freely, and immediately available to anyone who wants it. With the impact and influence of social media, ideas and opinions can be shared very quickly. And different generations have different ideas and opinions about what those relationships should look like. So something that you were raised with may be very different from the dialogue that's going on now in social media and through this information age that our kids are exposed to. I've spent some time describing the problem. Why are so many adult children estranged from their parents? And hopefully that gives you a little bit of insight into what you can do. In fact, let's go there for a moment. Your ability to connect to your job, I mean your true job as a parent. What is it? If you've watched very many videos here on this particular channel, you've probably heard me say this over and over again. Your job as a parent is to love them, no matter what, and even if. It is not to make sure that they anything. And it's making sure that that puts us in a position that we invite resistance. That would be my main invitation to you, is to get really clear about your job being to love them, no matter what, and even if. When you embrace that fully, then you can learn to become a safer place for your kids to connect. And that has to do with the kind of language you use and how you approach the relationship. All of these are skills that can be learned. If this topic is really resonating with you, drop a comment into the comments below. You're not alone. And I think you're going to see that other people are having very similar experiences, and there's a lot that we can do about it. In fact, would you queue up that next video? It's called How to Be a Good Parent to Your Adult Children. We're going to take this even deeper in that next video. Would you go look at that one next? I'll see you there.